Thank you very much for virtually joining us today as we review the latest situation regarding COVID-19. Today, I'm very pleased to be joined by Dr. Mark Parrish, joining us from London, and Dr. Myles Druckman from California, who today will outline how to develop a corporate vaccination strategy in light of the COVID-19 vaccine epidemic. Before getting into that advice, I would like to pass it to our two doctors today to give us a little insight on what are the most common challenges they're seeing with our clients globally when trying to proactively manage a vaccination planning. So Mark, maybe over to you first.
Yeah, Kayla, hi, thanks for that. If I was to summarize, it would be, doctor, give me the news. All of our clients are asking us the same questions, aren't they, Myles? What's happening with vaccine rollout around the world, and when can I buy it privately? And the challenge is, as we know, that vaccine rollouts are in various stages around the world. If you have international assignees, you're going to be asking, well, will my assignees be part of the local country's rollout, or will they have to get their vaccine elsewhere? If the local country's rollout is of a vaccine that I'm not too sure about, but my own home country's vaccine strategy is with a vaccine I'm more comfortable with. Comfortable, you can define comfortable in various ways. How do I let my assignees have access to another vaccine? Can I do that? Will it mean that they will go to the bottom of the line? What priority are they going to be in a national rollout structure? What vaccines has this country agreed to buy? When are they going to start rolling it out? Do you have to pay for it? Generally, no. And then this last thing, when are we going to get to herd immunity, and how are they going to roll that out? And it's all really complicated. It changes regularly. We see countries like Israel doing very well at the moment, probably leading the race with percentage of their population vaccinated, which is fantastic. And then we see other countries coming along. And I think for a long time, we'll be seeing governments running these programs, won't we, Myles? And we'll have organizations, multinational, global organizations, wanting to know how it's going to affect both their domestic employees and any international assignees that they have.
I agree. I think that, part of the challenge too is that, as you said, it's a very fast moving story. So last week, countries not vaccinating, this week they are. And it's often will start in fits and starts, and then there's additional new vaccines that becomes approved. And so it is definitely a major challenge for companies to kind of keep up to date with everything. And I think the other feature that I think organizations are just starting to get their arms around is just the timeline for this, because there's, you may have a kind of a US centric or a UK centric view of the world where vaccination is happening. But if you look at companies with their total workforce, there's certain countries that might not be vaccinating for a year, and even then they won't get enough vaccine. So the challenge for organizations too is to look at where are those high risk areas where their employees are likely to not be quite delayed in their vaccination program, and then what are the opportunities to help manage that. And I think what we're doing to kind of help with that is to kind of collect and consolidate all of this information that's happening. And I think one of the challenges too is that, unfortunately, the information required is very local. So we think of a national program, but it's really down to your community, what's happening in the clinics and areas in your area, and how is it being distributed in your area. And I think we're seeing companies want to be able to tell their employees, how do you go get a vaccine to get vaccinated? Give me, what are the steps I need to take? Where do I schedule it? How do I book it? As you said, Mark, how much does it cost? And they want to be able to give that guidance to their employees, whether they're in India, Indonesia, or Indiana, right? Across the board. And that's on the employee side. And then on the management side, they want to know, where's my risks? Where's my challenges? And also, we're seeing a lot of companies say, how can I potentially partner with the local authorities to help them? So, we may have a large footprint in a community. We have floor space. We have resources. How can we help? And so we're also looking at how we can help too.
Great. Thank you both very much for that, which I think leads us very nicely into what are our 4 recommendations for building a corporate vaccination strategy. So Mark, I'll pass it over to you if you don't mind taking us through our first 3 points.
Yeah, sure. So 3 out of 4 here, Kayla. First of all, define what you want to do. Secondly, help employees navigate the system, whatever the system is. And thirdly, maybe provide opportunities to get vaccinated. So let's take those in turn. The first one, help define what's going on. Well, you may, as a company, decide you're going to, be very involved and be very supportive of vaccination programs. You may push out recommendations to your teams to get vaccinated. You may want to create incentives for your employees to get vaccinated. On the other side, we are seeing some organizations already starting to ask for proof of COVID vaccination before you can come into the workplace, and we're probably going to see that coming through. So it's good to have a plan around that. That's sort of where we would see as the planning aspect of that any organization should have, just to work out what your point of view and planning is going to be for your vaccination strategy. The second bit is, helping them navigate the system. Myles talked very clearly about some of the challenges that companies see around the world, as you say, whether you're in India or whether you're in Indiana. How do you get fact-based information to employees about 2 things? One, about vaccine programs and the relative risk of the vaccine against COVID, because there's a lot of fake news about that. And then the second part is, how do you get information about vaccine rollouts programs within your particular area? If there becomes a financial challenge for employees with that, are you going to help them with that? Generally, we see no financial issues at the moment. And maybe if there's a bit of a logistic challenge for someone to get to a vaccination center, will you help them with that? Will you give them a bit of time off? We see a lot of organizations already starting to think about that, so they can put that in place. And in different parts of the world, it will be slightly different. There'll be local cultural things to be aware of. And then this third area, which is maybe more opportunities to get vaccinated. So it's reserving time with providers for employees to get vaccinated if you're able to do that. Maybe holding on-site immunization clinics when you are able to do that. We see other organizations that we work with offering space to run large government vaccination programs at the moment, and that's great. I think we'll see more of that in the future, and we'll also see employers wanting to get more involved. At the moment, as employers, we are unlikely to get very involved. So here at International SOS, sure, we are being asked to help in sort of the final stage of vaccinating people. So in Australia, we've been asked by the government to help out with actually vaccinating people, and that's great. And ultimately, as government programs continue, they may slowly start to open things up and let us as employers make a decision on local vaccinations centers, but that will take a while, won't it, Myles? I think at the moment it'll be government run, and we'll see that for the next few months. Over to you for the final bit, Myles.
Yeah, no, look, I agree, Mark. I think that, one of the data points that we're tracking is something called the burn rate, which basically how much of what's in the refrigerator have you been able to administer? And I think it's going to be an interesting indicator for companies, because if the government has lots in the refrigerator and doesn't have the bandwidth to distribute it, to administer it to people, then there's an opportunity for companies. If the refrigerator's bare, then there's going to be less chance for companies to be involved because there's just not enough product. So I think assessing that globally will look at your opportunities for companies to engage, because if it's a how quickly we can get it out to people issue, then that's where I think government companies can kind of play that role. And I think there's also this kind of moral challenge they have too, where obviously you don't want to be seen going ahead of the line. You want to be part of the community and supporting the whole community, not just your own organization. And then I guess the final point is, how do you ultimately keep up to date with this? How do you continually, report on this information? And so, we've been working, as many of you know, with a number of solutions for organizations. At one level, it's tools like Site Monitor that help keep up to date with the latest. So if you are going to set up a testing program, if you are going to set up a screening program or a vaccination program, you have some of the core ingredients there as well as a lot of the key information that's available and kept up to date for you. And then as we look at some of these solutions we've been talking about, we have teams now that literally are collecting and consolidating all of this information for organizations on a daily basis to assess kind of what is happening in each community and to help add more surge capacity to organizations. We're seeing a lot of companies say, look, I've got 5 people, but they're fully dedicated just to get this. They have no more day jobs because they're trying to do this. How can you take some of that workload off my people so I can get them back to doing their regular work? So we're able to help out in that area as well.
Yeah, I think the other thing, Kayla, is as part of that, so building on that, as Myles says, the data and the information, it's putting some assessment and analysis on that is the thing that we can help with. 15 countries got 15 different rollout programs. Sure, we can help with all the data about those and the websites to where to go to for more details and the priorities. That's fine in one sense. But if you're a company that have got employees in those 15 countries, you want to have an idea of, okay, where's it going well and do I not need to worry about? And where are maybe the areas it's not going so well? So we can sort of put some like traffic light indicators on those, give you some options, give you some thoughts, give you some comment on that, which might help you so you don't have to get your team to do that, and then come back to us and ask us for any other information, which might be a good way to utilize your resources.
Yeah, it's a great point, Mark. I think, as you know, a lot of clients now have medical advisors, and we have a whole team that provides that medical advice function. And with the data, we can then look at the local situation, and we have local experts in each of these locations, so that we can really give kind of the on-the-ground information, which is not always what you're going to find on the website. The government websites are not going to tell you really the context of what's going on, and even the media can be somewhat biased and confusing for clients. So we will try to get our medical experts to kind of give that corporate strategic advice and direction, which I think adds a lot of value for organizations.
Perfect. Thank you both so much. Incredibly helpful to give perspective to this evolving situation and evolving topic, obviously challenging for our clients and for everyone. So just a thank you for your time today. So whether it's for strategic advice, vaccination monitoring, or delivery strategies, our advisors like Dr. Mark and Dr. Myles on hand to support, and do get in touch with us for any more information or advice. Thank you and have a great day.